Let's hit some anytime goal scorers as well as safe shots on goal for some of these goalies. Give me both teams to score in the first period. That's coming in at plus 185 compared to the over 1.5 that is at minus 120. Okay, you guys ready? Let's make some freaking money. It's time for Pocket with Jo. Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Jo here at SportsGrid. It's time for a Pocket with Jo over here on SportsGrid TV, on X as well as YouTube. I hope everyone's day is starting off fantastic. Definitely is if you're an Ottawa Senators fan. Seeing the Ottawa Senators roll into Toronto last night and win in a must-win game where they were facing elimination. The Toronto Maple Leafs weren't able to close it out, weren't able to even get a goal in last night's matchup with the Ottawa Senators completely dominating, winning that 4-0. Now, we were riding the over 2.5 for the Ottawa Senators in that one. I expected Toronto to get the win, but Ottawa to be able to get at least 3 goals. So we were able to get there with that bet, but Toronto just not able to answer back. It was really surprising. Those playoff jinxes, the playoffs for the Toronto Maple Leafs just are not good. Returning to Ottawa, I do think it is pivotal for the Ottawa Senators to come out strong, hard, and fast in that next game, take that lead and get in the heads of the Maple Leafs, because we know all the pressure is on this Maple Leafs team. We then saw an outstanding game between the New Jersey Devils and the Carolina Hurricanes, unable to cash the Canes on that puck line or laying the old puck line laying 2.5. They were able to get the win in double OT. In a double overtime game that's really going to haunt New Jersey. New Jersey end up taking that penalty for the high sticking call, and then Carolina was able to score on that double overtime. So that series has come to an end with Carolina moving on and the New Jersey Devils packing their bags, but they should be really proud of themselves. What Jacob Markstrom was able to do between the pipes last night was outstanding, and they should be proud, because you look at the defense of the New Jersey Devils. They lost 50% of their defense, losing Luke Hughes and not Dougie Hamilton. Actually, he was out for a little bit, but Luke Hughes and Dylan. So we did see them struggle. And then Jack Hughes not out there on the ice, who was their main offensive player all season long, unable to make it for the playoffs after being injured back versus Vegas, a month with about a month left in the season. So everyone expecting Carolina to move on. They have advanced to the next round, but the Devils gave them one hell of a game. They opened up the scoring 3-0 in the first period, with Carolina answering back 4-1 in the second. And then finally that overtime goal in double overtime last night. We then saw the Vegas Golden Knights beat the Minnesota Wild in an overtime thriller. Kaprizov coming out nice and strong for the Minnesota Wild, but the curse of that first goal takes the win is alive in this series. Vegas scored the first goal in the first period and then won the game. It's coinciding with this series. Whoever scores first takes the game. Now, in that game, Minnesota answered back with under 13 seconds of an answer back. So it was interesting to see. And then the LA Kings fell on home ice. This is probably the most devastating loss for the LA Kings, falling on their home ice to the Edmonton Oilers. Now we went 0-0 into the second period, where they both scored 1 goal, and Edmonton just too strong in that third, scoring 2 goals to win that 3-1. I tell you, the Kings are looking pretty dead in the water, if you ask me my opinion. Going back into Edmonton, that is going to be one heck of a game. You look at Darcy Kemper, he did stand tall. Those shots on goal were just nonstop by the Edmonton Oilers, as that offense and more time that they've had out there. We know coming into the playoffs, so many of those players were injured, hadn't had the time out on the ice, and it was pivotal for the LA Kings to really lock down on the Edmonton Oilers fast. Now Edmonton taking that 3-2 lead, with that series going back to Edmonton for Game 6. I'm not going to hold my breath on my ticket of the LA Kings to take that series anymore, you guys. I might hedge a little in that next game, so we'll talk about that one when it goes off. Yeah, Vegas had a couple more challenges. It was an insane game. Glad the Ripper, good to see you here on this Wednesday. You really got me thinking. Maybe I have to do a weekend show once the NHL is done, because I will be around in studio anyway for my game time or my shows on the grid. So maybe we'll do something here on YouTube. Let's make some freaking money, Tony. That is right. Kings can't get the Edmonton monkey off their back. Yeah, Rob, it's really hard here for them to beat the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton, the more time you give them in a series, the harder they're just going to get. And now Edmonton returning back home. And could the Kings steal it? Absolutely. And then still take it in Game 7 at home? They could, but beating Edmonton 2 in a row is going to be just an uphill battle that the Kings did not need. They needed to get this win here and then have it come down to Game 7 on home ice, and not coming down to they could be eliminated over the next 2 games, depending on what happens, especially with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. Different makers out there, but, they do have the better goaltending. So we'll see what happens in Game 6. Again, probably going to hedge a little bit. Let's look at tonight's games. We've got a great set of games tonight. 2 teams facing elimination tonight, and it's going to be interesting to see if both of these teams fall, none of these teams fall. What is going to happen? So let's jump into the Montreal Canadiens versus the Washington Capitals first. So all odds are over on FanDuel, you guys, with the Montreal Canadiens, a plus 150 underdog. Minus 182 for the Washington Capitals, total of 6.5. 6.5 is just to the under at minus 138. Now, what are we going to see out of Montreal? We've got Logan Thompson expected in between the pipes for the Washington Capitals. He did start that last game. Not sure if he's absolutely 100%. And let's look at how the games did break down. Washington won Game 1 and Game 2. Game 1 went to overtime. They won it 3-2. Game 2, 3-1 because of an empty netter. We saw Montreal win Game 3, 6-3. Montreal just came out flying in that game, but then we did see the Washington Capitals answer back in Game 4. Now, when you first look at the box score of Game 4, it was a 5-2 game. It looks really out of proportion. There was 2 empty netters in that. So it was a 3-2 game, then 2 empty netters, 5-2 game, 5-2 win for the Washington Capitals. I do think the Montreal Canadiens will keep this one tighter. Plus 1.5, though, is minus 170. The problem with this also is, they're going to pull goaltending, not looking to be eliminated. This is an elimination game. If Montreal can't pull off the win tonight, they're not going to extend that series, and the Washington Capitals will clinch this series tonight. What we saw in Game 4 was the Washington Capitals still dominate that faceoff. They won 58.3% of the faceoffs. They went 0-5 on the power play, though. The special teams for Montreal was really standing up nice and tall, killing off all 5 of those penalties, and they were able to convert on 2 of their 4 opportunities on the power play. And you're looking at Cole Caulfield in this series. He's got 2 power play goals out of the 3 he scored. This power play has become pretty deadly here, especially with Cole Caulfield on it for the Montreal Canadiens. If they can get those opportunities, get under Washington's skin and get the power plays, they should be able to convert tonight. Looking at the physicality level, 34 hits versus 26 for Montreal. And then the shots on goal. Montreal had limited shots in that last game, 18 shots versus 26 for the Washington Capitals. So that means we have seen a lot out of Dovish between the pipes for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, I would love to see Sam Montembeault out here, but Dovish has been doing a solid job for them between the pipes. I'm going to look at a couple things in this one. I do think Montreal has the opportunity of winning if they can score 3 goals. I could see this being that tight battle covering that puck line, but the problem with that puck line is the juice. So I'm going to take Montreal's team total over 2.5 goals. Coming in at minus 118. I do think this is an overtime game with so much on the line. Give me the plus 360 for overtime. Could we need the overtime to get us for Montreal? I think if this one is one where Montreal gets it, we go 3-3 into OT. And I think it's going to come down that tight. Now, this is all about the power play for me. This is Cole Caulfield for the goal on the power play. This is about him picking up those power play points. If he can't, I don't think Montreal is able to go over their team total of 2.5 or be able to get the win. So I will look here. Montreal's team total over 2.5. I won't take them on the money line at plus 150, but I could see the possibility of them getting the win. I'll take the overtime bet instead. I'm going to look at Dylan Strome for the point here for the Capitals. So 7 points so far in this series, 2 goals, 5 assists. So he has been fantastic. Let's just pull up those points for you as I verify here that I am human on FanDuel. I love how FanDuel does this to me every second day. It's because I have the browser open so much, you guys. You got to verify you're human. Means you press and hold a button for a good 30 seconds, it feels like, here as we do this live. Okay, if this will open, let's look at those points again. I just don't want to give you off points if they have moved. So Caulfield, just for the regular points, minus 160. You guys know I won't lay that kind of juice. I do like Caulfield for the power play point. That's coming in at plus 230. Again, 2 power play goals so far in this series. It's going to be pivotal if Montreal has a chance to win it tonight, that Caulfield is able to do so. Now, the power play has been shut down by the Montreal Canadiens for the Capitals. They went 0-5 in the last game. Dylan Strome's coming in too juicy for a point at minus 215, but I do think his point comes via the assist tonight. Dylan Strome for the assist coming in at minus 111. So I will take him for the assist. If you just want to play around with that and you want to take Dylan Strome for a point and a Tom Wilson for a point, you're going to get those 2 guys. Let's take his assist out there. Parlayed together Strome and Wilson at plus 123. If you want to take Strome and Ovi, you're going to have to lay the juice at minus 129. So I do think play around with those points. Caulfield and Nick Suzuki, you guys know I love to parlay together. You can't take the power play point for Caulfield, parlaying it with Nick Suzuki, but you can take Caulfield and Nick Suzuki for a point, coming in at minus 110. Now, I do think Demidov gets into this game. Again, we were able to get Demidov for the point last game. He's coming in at plus 126 for the point tonight. So if you want to take Demidov and Caulfield for a point, it's coming in at plus 204. And I do like that combination as well. I think it's going to be a good game for them. Demidov, he was great. He was able to get a goal in game 4. So I do like his ability to come out nice and strong today. So Western Conference, Eastern Conference, and the Cup. We'll get into that, Tony. We're going to do a preview after probably Thursday's games. I like to get a couple more games under our belt before we get into that. So you got to see how some of these teams are going. But I do think the Florida Panthers go all the way. And I'm looking at the Winnipeg Jets. If the Winnipeg Jets can get past the St. Louis Blues, looking at the matchups ahead of them, I do think they have every opportunity, but I really like Colorado as well. So we'll get into those previews. We'll definitely have videos posted up there. McMichaels tonight. He's played well at home and it has great values. What value are you getting on McMichaels tonight, Hall? Okay, let's move on. The Florida hang on just 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. I have a major tickle in my throat right now. Let's look at the Florida Panthers versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. Hopefully I can get through the rest of this show without coughing. Not sure where this mystery cough has come from. Lane Hudson, also a good look for the Montreal Canadiens. If Montreal is scoring, you know, Lane Hudson has been great at getting those assists so far in this series and in the regular season overall. Such a strong rookie out there. Okay, the Florida Panthers versus Tampa Bay Lightning. The Florida Panthers rolling in here at minus 105 on the money line. The Tampa Bay Lightning at minus 114. This one has a total of 5.5. Minus 112 to the over, minus 108 to the under. This is going to be an intense battle. So we're looking here, game 5, the Panthers looking to eliminate the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight. It is a 3-1 series right now with the Florida Panthers getting the win at home in their last game. Hopefully you guys rode with me on the money line there for the Florida Panthers. We picked up that win. They won game 1, 6-2. They won game 2, 2-0. Tampa answered back in game 3 on the road in Florida, 5-1. And then Florida answered back, winning game 4, 4-2. There was an empty netter. This series is so physical. Whoever comes out of this series is going to be beat the hell up. These teams are hitting each other left, right, and center, and the refs are not blowing those whistles. Coach Paul Maurice, Coach John Cooper, they are at their wits' ends with what they're seeing out there. We have seen for the Florida Panthers, Ekblad, is out of the lineup. He's been suspended for 2 games for the elbow to Brandon Hagel, and Brandon Hagel will miss tonight from that elbow. Mikola was fined of the Florida Panthers $5,000 for that boarding hit on Gergensen. It was nasty, you guys. Gergensen was on his knees, and Mikola hit him and hit his head straight into the boards when he was on his knees. It was absolutely disgusting. I think if anyone should have been suspended, it should have been him as well. This is a brutal series. These teams don't like each other. They're hard hitting. There's going to be time in that penalty box. Looking at what we've seen, both teams neither team could convert on the power play in the last one. So game 4, we saw the Florida Panthers go 0-3 on the power play. The Tampa Bay Lightning go 0-2. We did see Tampa win 51.9% of the faceoffs, so not an overwhelming win on those faceoffs. 46 hits the Florida Panthers laid out on the Tampa Bay Lightning, Tampa returning 28. The shots on goal was pretty limited for both of these teams, 23 for Florida, 20 for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm worried about Andre Vasilevskiy. He hasn't looked elite between the pipes. He looked sharper in game 2 and game 3 than he had in game 1 and game 4. His save percentage over the series is at .884, so not great numbers. And we look at him in his last 7 playoff games versus the Florida Panthers. So going back into other seasons, he's got an .882 save percentage. So not the best numbers for Andre Vasilevskiy out here. Bobrovsky been solid in the series. He's got a .902 save percentage. So I like what we've seen out of Bobrovsky. And yeah, that wasn't the best game in game 3, but he did have that bounce back. I'm looking at the last game, and you look at those quick goals that came. So in game 4, we saw Tampa get 2 quick goals within 11 seconds of each other in the second period, and they rolled into that third with the lead. And then what happened? Florida scored 2 quick goals with 11 seconds between each in the third, and then end up winning that game. So it was a crazy one. They got the empty netter, winning at 4-2. Could we bet on the coaches jumping onto the ice and going at each other in this series? It kind of feels that way, right? Like, this is just such a brutal series between these two. I do think so. We see Florida close it out tonight, you guys. We're getting the Florida Panthers here, -105 on the road. And I know it is on the road, but what we've seen out of Florida, they won those first 2 games in Tampa. Tampa won 1 in Florida. Florida won the other one. And I just think the Florida Panthers are the better team here. They step up to a different level in the playoffs. I'm not going to touch this total. I'm not going to touch a first period total. I'm going to stay off it completely. I'm just looking at Florida to get the win. Now, yes, it's going to be hard for them to do defensively with Ekblad out of the lineup. We know the Tampa Bay Lightning have those playmakers, Braden Point, Nikita Kucherov, that are able to get those goals on the board. But with what we've seen out of the special teams here for the Florida Panthers, shutting down that power play for the Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm not sure if Tampa can stay alive in this. So give me Florida at -105. I think this is a great hedging game as well, because if we see Florida go up by 2 goals, I'm going to come back in on the plus money and look to middle a price on this game. I also think if you don't want to take anyone going in, you come back in on the other team if one team goes up on that puck line. So I think it's going to be a 1-goal game. Every opportunity to go to overtime in this game as well, just like the Montreal Capitals game. I will take this one to go to overtime. It's coming in at +320 as these two teams absolutely battle it out. McMichael's at +110, +300 for the anytime goal. Great call, on McMichael. I like that. Let's make some freaking money tonight. That is for sure. Tony, the Edmonton Oilers on the money line last night. Good job, for sure. Yeah, the Mikola hit was awful. It was disgusting out there. Anytime goal, Cole Caulfield, Sam Reinhart, and Kyle Connor. Absolutely love it, Larry. I love Caulfield. I love Sam Reinhart. You know, the Sams have been doing this good. Sam Bennett lost us that 4-leg parlay in the last one, not getting the point, but I do think Sam Bennett comes back to form in this one. So Sam Reinhart, Sam Bennett, and then how can we deny Kyle Connor? Even though the Jets lost that last game, Kyle Connor did get on the board in the first period and make us some money. So Larry, get great player prop parlay for those anytime goals. So let's look at the St. Louis Blues versus the Winnipeg Jets. This one is vital for the Winnipeg Jets to get the win. Now they're minus 182 favorite here on the road. Money starting to come in on them. This was closer to a minus 160 favorite earlier in the day. Plus 150 here for the St. Louis Blues. Total is sitting at 5.5. Plus 116 to the over, minus 142 to the under. Series tied 2-2 apiece. This feels like it's a 3-2 lead for the St. Louis Blues, even though I know it's not. It is vital for the Winnipeg Jets to answer back and for Connor Hellebuyck to get his head right on his shoulders in this game. If the St. Louis Blues roll in here and win game number 5, they're going to take it home and close it out in 6. I don't have faith in the Winnipeg Jets to finish it in St. Louis. Or to get the win in St. Louis. Then it would come back to Winnipeg if they lose tonight. I just don't have the faith in them. The St. Louis Blues have been fantastic on their home ice. They've been lighting things up. And with last change, they have dominated the Winnipeg Jets in those last 2 games. They've got to Connor Hellebuyck. They've rattled him. And it's really about how they rush the net. They rush the net. They play that gritty hockey and they get in front of him and they get those rebounds. And Connor Hellebuyck, playoff Connor Hellebuyck, these numbers are not sound. Now, he needs that bounce back. He's done so many interviews. We know the weight of the world is on his shoulders, which is a scary situation. I expected Connor Hellebuyck to bounce back in the last game. He wasn't able to, but I'm going to go back to him today. If you want to ride with the St. Louis Blues, I don't blame you, but I do think it's pivotal here for the Winnipeg Jets to get back into that form. Look for that defense to come out and give him support. Remember, this is a defense that really limited the opponent's abilities to get those goals, especially at home during the regular season. They did win the President's Trophy, and I know that curse is real. I wouldn't want my team to win the President's Trophy, but Connor Hellebuyck in this series has an .817 save percentage of 4.24 goals against average. It's the worst. It is absolutely the worst out of one of our best goaltenders in the whole league. Looking at Connor Hellebuyck on the season, he had a .925 save percentage. I don't know what happens to him in playoff hockey, but it's not pretty. Jordan Binnington on the other side is playing absolutely elite. What I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to take both goaltenders saved shots on goal to the over. Connor Hellebuyck coming in at 21.5. Give me that to the over at minus 102. In the last game, St. Louis put up 24 shots on net. I'm expecting Connor Hellebuyck to do better in this game. Looking at Jordan Binnington, save shots on goal, 23.5, minus 104 to the over. In the last game, we did see the Winnipeg Jets put up 31 shots on goal. They're going to continue to get these shots. Jordan Binnington can go over that number. So give me both goaltenders for their safe shots on goal to the over. I'm expecting this to be very much like game 2. In game 2, the Winnipeg Jets won this 2-1. In game 1, we saw the 5-3 win for the Winnipeg Jets at home with the empty netter. In game 3, the Blues answered with a 7-2 win. Game 4, 5-1 win. This has to be a 2-1 style game for the Winnipeg Jets. So I like the under. They can't allow the Blues on the power play as well. They've really got to lock down. This Blues team on the power play has been pretty solid. Last game wasn't as solid, but when we've seen them in Winnipeg, they have been able to convert. The Winnipeg Jets won 50.9% of the faceoffs in that game for, the Blues. It's an easy recipe for them to win this game. They get Jake Neighbors in front of the net. They play that gritty hockey. They fire that puck and continue to fire with all of those guys rushing that net. They're going to score. Connor Hellebuyck has to do better. For the Winnipeg Jets to win, they have to give that defensive support to them. They have to hold the St. Louis Blues under 2.5 goals. I will play on the St. Louis Blues under 2.5 goals at minus 136. I do think Winnipeg probably gets to 3 goals in this one. 3.5 going to 4 is too much to ask. Again, I think it's that 2-1 style of game. If they get that 4th goal, it's because of an empty netter. It's because it's a 3-2 game and we get the empty netter and they get the 4th. If you really believe they're going to get the 4th, it's plus 140 for over 3.5. I can't get there. I'm going to take the Blues team total under 2.5. I know I got to lay the juice at minus 136, but I'm more comfortable with that. I think you can look at the first period under 1.5 goals. That's coming in at -124. And then if I'm looking at playmakers to come out strong, it's got to be Kyle Connor here of the Winnipeg Jets to find the back of the net on Jordan Binnington tonight. He got us a goal in the last game. And for the St. Louis Blues, I love Jake Neighbors in front of the net. You're going to get great value for him. But I do think Robert Thomas, if anyone's scoring on Connor Hellebuyck tonight, it will be Robert Thomas. So, yeah, you've got to play both of those goaltenders to the over. Binnington definitely should be able to go over that number. The Winnipeg Jets have been getting those shots. The Winnipeg Jets, with last change, are going to get more opportunities on Jordan Binnington in this game. I expect at least 35 shots on goal tonight out of the Winnipeg Jets. Even though the St. Louis Blues can lock down defensively, we're going to see the matchups the Jets want out there on the ice. So I love Binnington to the over. I like Connor Hellebuyck because he has to bounce back in this matchup as well. Good morning, Kev. Good to see you here today. Let's make some freaking money. And Lisa, happy Wednesday. Good to see you here this week. So let's get going, you guys. It's time for the recap. These are going to be battles out there on the ice tonight. I just hope no one gets hurt, especially out there on the ice between the Panthers and the Lightning, because that series is so scrappy. So recap time, 2 teams facing elimination. That's the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Montreal Canadiens. So the Montreal Canadiens versus the Washington Capitals. I'm going to roll with Montreal over 2.5 goals. I think they can get 2-3 tonight. That's coming in at -118. I'll also look at this game to go to overtime at +360. Your goal scorers, your point scorers in this one, I'll take Cole Caulfield for the power play point tonight, expecting him to get a power play goal. That's how Montreal can win this game, is converting on that power play. I'll look at Dylan Strome here of the Washington Capitals to be able to get a point on the board. You got to parlay that, as it is kind of juicy. I do think the assist is coming for his point, -111 for the assist. So you can either look at Dylan Strome for the assist or look at him parlayed with Tom Wilson or Ovechkin for a point. That will get you plus money. When we look at the Florida Panthers versus the Tampa Bay Lightning, I'll take Panthers at -104 on the money line. I do think this game is such a coin flip. It comes down to the wire. Give me overtime in this one. I would be shocked if this one actually doesn't make double overtime. +320 to go to overtime. Paul Maurice versus John Cooper. These two have great minds out there. They're going to get the best of their players on the ice tonight. Defense will be lacking here with Ekblad out of the lineup for the Florida Panthers. Hagel out on left wing for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'll just take the Panthers. I'll take overtime. I'm going to stay off player props, but you guys know I've been high on the Sams. Sam Reinhart, Sam Bennett, Matthew Tkachuk to come out strong, but it's Braden Point on the other side and Nikita Kucherov if you really want playmakers. And then the St. Louis Blues versus the Winnipeg Jets. Give me in this one. Jordan Binnington, save shots on goal over 23.5 at -114. Connor Hellebuyck, save shots on goal. I know it's gross, over 21.5 at -102. He has to bounce back. Winnipeg at home. Defensively, the defense will give him support. He's going to play better tonight. The Blues team total is my favorite bet of this game, under 2.5 at -136. I think they struggle here. Winnipeg, such a strong home record. I do think they can get the win, and if the Blues go out first, I will be coming back in on the Winnipeg Jets on the money line when I'm getting a better price. Gabriel Vilardi back in the lineup as well. First period, under 1.5, coming in at -124. This has to be that defensive battle. Robert Thomas or Jake Neighbors for the anytime goal for the St. Louis Blues is where I would look. Robert Thomas, I think, gets it. Jake Neighbors is just so gritty in front of the net. You're going to get more value. So definitely 2 players to look at. We know Morrissey, there's so many playmakers out here for the Winnipeg Jets, but it has to be Kyle Connor for me. I think Kyle Connor is the winner here. He probably gets the winning goal in OT if this one goes that way, but I'm not sure if we're going to get overtime. If you want to play all 3 games to go to overtime, it's definitely going to be 2 of the 3 games. I really do feel like we're going to get overtime in. So best players for the 2+ points tonight, I would look at Cole Caulfield there for the Montreal Canadiens. I do think he comes absolutely guns a-blazing in this game so they don't get eliminated tonight. So I'd look at Cole Caulfield, and then I'd look at Kyle Connor for 2+ points for the Winnipeg Jets tonight. So look at those goaltenders in the Jets and the Blues series. I do think we get the bounce back from Connor Hellebuck. It seems like when you look at the lines here, everyone's going to say the Capitals win it, the Lightning win it to extend the series. Capitals close it out. And the St. Louis Blues with the domination we saw on home ice get the win. But I tell you, I really think Winnipeg wins tonight, Florida wins tonight, and Montreal has every opportunity of extending that series. So that's why I'm going to play their team total over 2.5. You guys, all the best in all of your bets. Thank you so much for joining me here on Puck It with Jo here on SportsGrid TV on X. Let's make some freaking money today. It's a great day out there on the ice to make some money. We'll be back tomorrow noon Eastern here on the grid for all of your NHL playoff picks and predictions, player props, everything that you want out there on the ice. Tony, we will get into the Western Conference, Eastern Conference, and the Cup for sure. So stay tuned for previews in that. Let's get through this first series. Let's see what these teams are able to do before we go that deep. So all the best in all of your bets tonight, you guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Hit some anytime goal scorers as well as safe shots on goal for some of these goalies.